welcome to another DorkLair action figure review. Today I'm taking a look at the Mythic Legion's Legacies of Mythoss, Otho and Urzokk. Huge thank you to Four Horsemen Studios for sending these out to me early so that I could give you a good look at these figures before they go on sale. Today is Saturday the 13th, and this video will go up on today, Saturday the 13th, and then the sale will have two kind of windows of opportunity. The first window will begin Monday the 15th, September 15th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. That will be an in-stock sale. You'll be able to buy both individually, separately boxed figures together as one pair for $110, and then that sale is going to basically be limited to per person, 2 sets per person. For 24 hours, and then if that availability continues past the 24 hours, you will be able to buy more, and then you can buy as many as you want until they sell out. Once that's done, on Friday the 19th, they're actually going to put these up for a second production run pre-order, where you can buy them individually. You can buy as many as you want. They're going to make them to order, and so it's just pretty neat drop. I think this is the first time they've ever done something like this, and I think it gives an opportunity to build up some hype and get these in hand, but also gives people the opportunity to kind of like sit back and say, okay, let me figure out exactly how many I want, which I want, and because I know some people will use these for army builders, even though they're kind of like main characters. They have great bodies for building. And they will be $55 each in that second sale. So the same price, same exact figures, same exact beautiful packaging, by the way, with original individual portrait art by Nate Barch, action figure photography by Trevor Williams. Just fantastic stuff here with these boxed figures. Legacies of Mythoss, this is the first drop, and I'm very excited to see kind of where this line goes. But so far we have Otho 2 and Urzokk 2, so let's get into this review. Getting a close-up look at Otho first with the details. This brand new head sculpt looks fantastic. I don't have the original Otho, but I just feel like this probably has a lot more details, especially in the hair and the sculpture there. But yeah, so, and I think it's maybe a little better proportionally as well. But yeah, so there's a look at Otho's head sculpt. Looking good. This hairpiece is actually removable, so the back dreads that are tied back can fit onto the lion helm head, which is a nice touch there. I think this collar piece is new, or maybe we've seen it like previewed on a figure, but correct me if I'm wrong. Somebody in the comments, I'm not sure if I have that in hand on any figures yet, but it's a little more ornate than a lot of the other collars. It's got some gold details. From the neck down, really this is... If you have the new knights, this is a very standard, straightforward version. It's got a lot of the Valiant Knight parts, the legs, the arms, the kind of like the basic armor, whereas some of the other guys have scroll work and ornate sculpture within. He's got that sort of like basic sculpted armor there, but he does have all of the nice gold accent details throughout, so looks fantastic. And, the same type of cloth goods as the other knights, which I love, like the stretchy thing around the waist and the 2-part, whereas like a lot of companies would do like this, would thread through and it would come down one piece. This is a separate skirt piece. This is a separate piece. And then the torso cover is a separate piece. And it's just, I think it just works so well and looks so good. It just fits nicely. Got a leather belt around the waist there. And I do like all the gold edging along the cloth work. Really nice stuff. And, just, kind of like your basic silver, again, with some gold accents throughout. So if you have the knights, like of the two figures, this is definitely the one with the least newness. Obviously, the head is the draw here, and then the other helmets, which are brand new. But, like, as far as the body goes, if you have any of those new knights, if you have... Gideon Heaven's Brand, if you have Sir Enoch or Sir Elijah, any of those guys, you pretty much kind of have a good idea of what you're getting here. But this guy has a ton of new stuff. Even if it's not technically the first time we've seen it, a lot of it is the first time we're getting it in hand. For example, these knees they've been shown on other figures. The lower legs have been shown on other figures, these feet, but we just haven't gotten them in hand yet. There is a little bit of reuse. The upper arms, the upper legs, obviously the upper arms minus this overlay piece on the elbow, but the basic construction of the upper arms is Valiant Knight upper arms. The upper legs, same thing, the kind of the knight legs. And then this skirt piece is reused from like the Vorthog Magnus, which is what it was originally on. It's also on the current Barbarian, but they added a new belt buckle piece, so it makes it a brand new skirt. I think we've seen this, like scalloped or whatever. Loincloth is not the same as the original ones, but I do think we've seen this on some figures previewed, but this might be the first time we're getting it in hand. Brand new torso. I don't think we've ever seen this torso before. Same with the shoulder pauldrons, almost like an update of the orc pauldrons, just a little more detailed, I think, a little more, little tighter silhouette, so to speak. Brand new orc head sculpt. We get 3 brand new orc head sculpts with this. So this is like very specifically Urzokk right here, and that head looks fantastic, so nice. We do have one version of this head that will be in the armory experience, but yeah, so very cool stuff here. Trying to think if there's anything else to highlight. That these forearms, I don't think we've seen these yet. The hands might just be like Valiant Knight, regular knight hands. One thing I wish they did was include some more hands with this figure, but it feels really deluxe because it's got so many new parts on it. And then, those knees. The pretty cool thing here is the boots are the lower boot type thing. So these will be swappable onto like the legendary Barbarian, for example. And then all the figures that are in the, or not all of them, but many of the legs that are in the Armory Experience 2025 will be swappable with those, so that's really nice. But yeah, and then also this belt here, this strap, it's all one piece, kind of like the Gladiator one, but just totally different design and everything. But that's a brand new piece too. So man, this is like, I'm excited for Otho, but like just getting so much new body in hand is almost more exciting to me. Like this Otho for me is the character. It's like, I got this character finally. Urzokk, he's a cool, unique character, but like he's another orc. Like I just think Otho is more interesting as a character. But as far as like the actual figure in hand, like this, it to me is a joy to get. And it's such a nice surprise that it's shipping now. If you buy it during the Monday sale, like you're going to get it right away. So pretty awesome stuff. Zooming out, here's a look at the overall shape and silhouette of these two guys. And they are indeed very much standard 1.0 Mythic Legions figures, coming in a little above 6.5 inches tall each. For comparisons, here's a couple Mythic Legions 1.0 figures, appropriately a knight and an orc. On the left is the Paladin from the Mythic Legions RPG. Fantastic figure. If you missed out on that figure, don't worry. They're going to make it available during the Kickstarter for the RPG. And then on the right is Vorthog, who was my favorite orc, but now I got to say, Urzokk definitely is number one for me in terms of orcs. Next, a couple 2.0 figures. On the left is Otho's ally, Hadriana. On the right is the female deluxe figure from the Tactics release. Next, here they are beside a couple Ogre scale figures, Archimedes on the left and Kurzog on the right. And one last Mythic Legions comparison. It is that time of year. I am flooding my zone with skeletons. Next, a couple other lines. We have a Mezco 112 Collective King Conan with a few cloth goods added on, and a Frazetta Girls Dark Wolf. Next up, on the left, we have the Savage Crucible Warrior with Ball and Chain based on the Frazetta painting, and on the right, we have Lexion from the Animal Warriors of the Kingdom by Spiro Toys. Here we have on the left the NECA D&D Ultimates Strongheart, and then on the right is the Ronin Mandalorian from the Tamashii Nations movie realization Samurai line. Here's a Masters of the Universe Classics Buzz-Off and a Masterverse Clawful. And finally, just a couple standard 6-inch figures. We got a couple Marvel Legends, Maximum Spider-Man on the left and Retro Green Goblin on the right. For accessories, let's start off with Otho first, and just sort of like off the bat, I'll just note that, this strap here, that secondary strap, these shoulder armors, like all that stuff is accessory, right? Like those things you can go with or without him if you want to pose him up, depending on how you want him to look. And then he does come with this new sword, brand new sword. I think this whole sword shape is going to be used on some other figures coming up, but the lion head pommel is perhaps unique to him. And there's the blade. Looks awesome. And it's got the scabbard here with a lot of good detail work there with that blue. And then he's got a secondary sword here. A little bit of a smaller sword, but it's one we've seen on some of those like Aetheron figures that came out recently, but also has a scabbard. And then he does have another weapon, the highlight for me, which is this brand new axe. Look at this beautiful axe. This thing's awesome. Such a nice piece. It's kind of feels like the much needed update to those old huge axes. And this thing is just fantastic. The top does come off, so they will be able to reuse this handle for some other pieces. Next, he has this beautiful shield with a lion detail on the front, and that piece there can actually pop out and pop in. As you saw, it's a little different from the usual swap out pieces, so this is not necessarily going to be compatible with the other shield ones. And it does have like a new kind of setup here. I'm thinking maybe this will be compatible with the new shield handles that they showed, but this does just come with the single grip. It does not come with the arm clamp piece. It's just got this, hand grip one that we're used to. For hands, he's got 3 pair of hands. This is a set of gesturing hands with horizontal hinges. He's got a pair of gripping hands with vertical hinges. He's got a pair of gripping hands with horizontal hinges. He does have 2 extra head sculpts. This is the first one, and you can see it has a hole in the back there. So that is to take his hair piece here, which pops out very easily, and then you just peg that in there. It's kind of got that Otho look, but he's helmeted now with that lion helm. Fantastic. And then that visor lifts up. You can see the teeth there, like it lifts up as if it's the mouth opening to reveal his face under there. And there's a good look at his face, which is actually a removable faceplate, which you can swap onto this other head here. So let me do that now. So lift with the visor up, you can pull this front piece off here, and then you can pull the face out. And then you can do the same thing with the other head. Pull that visor off there, swap the face in here, and then stick this crown piece back on the front. And then let me pop it on the body here. And then this one doesn't have the hair thing in the back, so this helmet is sort of, with the mask down, you essentially could make like a soldier with it, and it wouldn't be Otho. But with the mask up, it is indeed Otho, and looks pretty solid right there. So you could totally build armies with this. Like you could totally get extras and make like his guard to the left and right, have them with just the circular piece instead of the lion, and you'd have like Otho and his 2 like wingmen. All right, for Urzokk, here is his collar piece on there. That is an accessory that you can have either on or off. Same thing with the shoulder pauldrons, same thing with the belt. The tricky thing is I like the belt, but it can get a little in the way of the collar piece, so I think I kind of prefer it without the collar piece, but there will be a lot of fun uses for this collar here. But yeah, it looks awesome with it kind of all together. It's just that the belt kind of pushes it out of the way a little bit. And then so belt, shoulder armor, collar piece, those are accessories. And then he has the alternate head here. This is the sort of neutral face, and then here is the screaming face. So you got the 3 heads. You have the screaming, you have the neutral, and then you have the kind of growling head. And then we have an update to his shield. This thing looks awesome with all of that paintwork on there. Brand new shaped shield, very orc-like. It doesn't feel like they're using a regular shield and just trying to paint it like an orc shield. This is like for sure an orc shield. And this one does come with the standard, grip type handle. And he's got some pretty sweet weapons. Again, these are also brand new. Take a look at that axe right there. This one also does have a removable handle. So there's a look at the handle. And then if you take a look at the sword, this thing is sweet. Pretty brutal kind of sword right there. I heard Eric Treadaway describe his thought process of it, where he sees this as a sword that even if it's dull, the weight of the sword is just going to absolutely wreck the enemy of the combatant. So that really makes a lot of sense when you kind of look at this sword. Getting into the articulation, we'll start with Otho. I thought I would leave this head on here for maximum range because with the hair, it's going to be a little more limited, of course. But it does have that neck hinge, and it does have that ball joint at the top of the neck. So you're going to get a ton of good range in the neck. Shoulder armor can swing kind of up and down to move out of the way. You have that disc at the arm, and then you have the peg that twists. And, if you get that shoulder armor off, it's going to be pretty much unlimited movement up there. And then you do have these single jointed elbows, but they are the new Valiant Knight ones that can kind of bring it past 90 degrees and bring it a little bit more tightly. There is a twist at the elbow, below the elbow, twist at the forearm, twist at the wrist, hinge at the wrist as well. Standard, Mythic Legion's articulation. We've got the ball jointed waist, so a lot of good range there. You got to be careful with the positioning of the cloth goods. They can pop up, but overall it works really well. Got your standard legs with the disc and swivel here that kicks out quite a bit, back pretty much as you would need, twist above the thigh, out into the splits, single jointed knee, past 90 degrees, twist below the knee, hinge at the ankle, twist at the ankle, and a rocker as well. And it's pretty much all the same articulation for Urzokk because he also has that hinged neck. Now, all of this armor stuff is going to be a little more in the way than on Otho, but you're going to still have that same range if I can avoid stabbing myself on his armor. And then the shoulder armor does move a little bit out of the way. Arm comes up. Could probably get it to go a little further than that if you get in there and mess around with the little overlay piece that can lift above the shoulder. And then you do have that nice tight elbow there with the new single jointed elbows. Twist below the elbow, twist at the forearm, twist at the wrist, hinge at the wrist. We do have that nice ball jointed waist, giving him a ton of range of motion there. And hips out into the splits, twist above the thigh, forward kick. A little tougher because he's got a bigger loincloth. Backwards kick, twist above the thigh, or twist, upper thigh. Then at the knee, it is a little more limited. I think it's because we're looking at a slightly different below the knee piece. The lower leg is pretty much brand new. It's kind of similar to the Legendary Barbarian, where it's got the two-piece lower leg. It's got like the knee up top there that can twist, and then it's got the boot cut here. And so this would be pop and swappable with like the Legendary Barbarian from like here down. And then you have the standard ankle, twist, rocker, and hinge. But this is what I'm talking about. Like when you have everything on there, like this thing loves to ride up. So that's one little thing where it's like finicky and posing, but once you get it in position, it looks awesome. Getting into pop and swaps for Otho, I really wanted to focus on see if we can find a skin tone match, which unfortunately doesn't seem to be possible. So first of all, we have Calavius, and Calavius is clearly way too dark. Otho is much lighter and also is almost like skews toward olive color a little bit. So that's definitely not a match. And then the next up, I thought maybe the Anubis body. Of course, the neck is all, messed up in terms of trying to like match it up, but even Anubis is too dark for Otho. Getting closer is the Gaspar figure. In fact, it's actually pretty close, and you could probably fudge it if you were to put his coat on, like that robe, and it kind of broke up that distance between the body and the face. It would probably look not too bad, but still not quite a match. Still a little light, and surprisingly so. And then finally, I have, honestly, surprisingly, the closest match, which is the Legendary Barbarian. Now, it's still not exact. His skin tone, again, it's more toward like an olive color. Like the tones are just much different. I'd say the shade is like close, but the tones are different, right? Like there's more reds and stuff in the legendary barbarian, and it's more towards like the grays or greens or something like that when you get into like the colors that are actually in the face. But I think like, you know, this is probably the closest you're going to get, and it doesn't look bad. It's just not an exact match. And just out of curiosity, I know there'd be no swapping opportunities, but Bardrick is also much darker. And for some Urzokk pop-in swaps, I thought I would try out the War of the Aetherblade Orc, which actually looks pretty good. It's not exact. The Aetherblade Orc is darker, and the paint is actually a little more detailed. He's a little more splotchy, and the skin is more skin-like. But overall, I like the tones are there. Like I think it works out pretty darn well to match up with that Aetherblade Orc. From the moment I saw online that those lower legs on Urzokk were the kind of two-part lower legs, I immediately knew that at some point I was going to have to do this, which was to put them on the legendary barbarian body. It'll also work really well with all those legs in the upcoming armory experience. And then I also took a bunch of his other stuff, his waist armor, shoulder armor, the chest leather straps, the weapons, and just kind of like takes this legendary barbarian and just kind of transforms him into something a little more edgy and a little darker, you know. It just makes him that much more badass in my opinion. And while we're taking things apart, here's a look at the brand new torso. That is, you know, it's sort of an update of like the Vorthog torso, but it makes it a little more very specifically orc-like than something that could be like used for Vorthog or Magnus, so to speak. And then here's a look at the arm. Again, it's the Valiant Knight arm underneath. It's like the regular Knight arm, but this overlay piece that's glued on here, and then this piece that goes on the elbow, those are like very orc specific. And here's a look at the new, bracers, forearm gauntlets, or what have you. I believe these are just regular Valiant Knight hands. But this is cool. It's like one side's fur and then one side's armor. And then here's a look at the leg. Again, the upper leg is your standard knight leg. The new part is this knee part here. That is part of the two-part lower leg. And I just wanted to kind of show you how that looks. There's the new loincloth piece. And finally, I do love trying to make characters that are tank-like, and taking the head sculpt from the Pelvicus figure worked out really well. It is not the same. It's much more black than the kind of browns of the dirty armor on Urzokk, but overall, I think it does look pretty fantastic. Final thoughts. This is so nice to finally be able to get these two core characters into the collection, because they were so hard to find in their original form, and now they're updated. They're even better. They're fantastic. Got that just never get sick of this new Night Body, and now we have this brand new orc build. And it's just so cool to have these readily available. You know, you can just, even if you miss the in stock, you can go on and pre-order starting Friday the 19th, running till October 5th. Even if you miss that, the retailers will have them available. So, you know, you're not going to have any issues picking these up. They haven't mentioned the retailer pre-order price yet, but it'll probably be a few dollars more, maybe $60 each or something like that. Or, you know, it could end up even being $55 from retailers. We just don't know yet, because it's a new sort of product type. Anyway, thank you, Four Horsemen, for including me in this, sending these out, and letting me get an early look. And thanks for watching, everyone. Until next time, may the Force be with you.